presentations, and I'm going to guess, Nikki, you're going to go first, since you're standing. So the people we have here, the first presenter is going to be Nikki Michalak? Michalak. Okay, I'm Polish.
That's okay.
Nikki's a research coordinator at the Autism Training and Technical Assistance Project at Illinois State University. She worked in special education for over 13 years, and she strives to facilitate success for special education administrators, staff, and students by providing access to information and tools specially designed to support students with autism spectrum disorder. She hopes to understand the needs and challenges of educators working with individuals with autism and to be a relevant resource while empowering staff and students to succeed. She provides a lot of assistance, technical assistance, professional education, coaching, consultation to educators and families of individuals and youth with autism. She's created online professional development, undergraduate and graduate courses, and she publishes in autism. And informs local service providers for service on multiple leadership boards. And I'll give Colleen's quick introduction, that way you two can switch however you want. Colleen, currently, I have to watch her title because she's had several titles since she left TAB. Colleen's the manager of community outreach for the Midwest and South Central regions of Autism Speaks, which sounds to me like a lot of states. Prior to joining Autism Speaks, she most recently worked as the training specialist and manager of the Autism Program Service Centers, the TAP Service Centers, with the Easter Seals of Metropolitan Chicago and Rockford for 18 years. And during that time, she was responsible for the development and implementation of curriculum and staff development, professional training for employees, families, and other professionals, and supervision of full and part-time employees, interns, clinical staff, as well as local and national legislative activities, coordinating and leading the Autism Strategic Planning Committee for Easter Seals of Metro Chicago and Rockford. And she did extensive community outreach. I will tell you, although it wasn't listed in here, she also trained developmental pediatric residents for several teaching hospitals in Chicago while part of the Autism Program Clinic. So, Colleen's got lots of other things, and I'll let her tell you about them when she gets up here. So, Nikki, all you.
Awesome. All right. Buckle fast. We've been sitting for a really long time this afternoon. I'm not going to sit anymore. Okay, I'm not going to sit anymore. Let me move this around a little bit. All right. Can you go up a couple of slides, please? So, obviously, we're well aware of the increase of prevalence rate. We received a grant in May of last year through the Illinois State Board of Education. And that grant was specifically focused on building resources and supports for individuals who are leaving high school. So leaving high school, entering the adult world, specifically the workforce, or higher education. Because we know that there is a service cliff once individuals leave high school and enter the adult world, a lot seems to not happen. So go ahead and up a couple. I'm going to skip through some of this. This is an important slide though, the next one. This is current data on the number of students who are receiving services underneath the eligibility criteria of autism, spectrum disorder through the Illinois State Board of Education. And it's off the slide here, but I think it's 25,754 students are currently receiving services underneath that eligibility criteria. We know that that is not everybody, because obviously just because you might have an autism spectrum disorder does not mean that you have an educational impact, therefore you may not qualify for an IEP. It also might not capture everyone because they might be receiving services underneath a different disability category, they might have a 504 plan, or they may not have any type of educational supports. However, when we take a look at those numbers and we take them against our prevalence rate, we know that we're missing a lot of individuals, and it doesn't fully capture everyone who is in the school system who has an autism spectrum disorder. So, we also know that there are going to be a lot of individuals in the upcoming years who are going to be leaving high school and entering that adult world. With that said, 35%
of young adults between 19 and 23 have not had a job or received school beyond high school. One more quick. One more. And by 2020, over 500,000 individuals, so 500,000 children with autism are going to be reaching that adult age. And so we need to be doing things differently. Move right ahead. When we take a look at colleges, we do know that there's an increased number of individuals who are accessing post-secondary education. We do not have good data on what that number is because individuals may choose to not self-disclose. In addition to that, not everyone we don't have a good way to capture that data on college campuses to really figure out how many individuals on campus are there with an autism spectrum disorder. So it's estimated about 1 to 2% of the college population may have autism. And then when you take a look at that, 80% of the individuals who are on a college campus, there is an 80% incompletion rate. So they're going, but they're not staying. And so that's pretty scary. I see some heads nodding, so I think you all, it's not surprising, but it's sad. And part of that reason is we're not preparing them and we're not supporting them in the areas that they need to be supported. So socially and executive functioning are areas that we still at colleges are not doing a good job of supporting. Move on. We take a look at unemployment rates. And autism has the highest rate of unemployment. And so that's something else we need to do a better job of, as 85% of individuals or adults are unemployed. And then if you break that down a little bit further, 50% of young adults between 21 and 26 have held a paid job outside of their household. That's not a lot. So we need to do a better job engaging with employers as to what the benefits are of hiring someone with autism and the awesome things that they can bring to the workforce. So the Illinois State Board of Education last May decided that they were going to use some state dollars to build supports. So they brought back, if anybody is from Illinois and is familiar with the Illinois Autism Training and Technical Assistance Project, we've been around for a long time, and we decided to reallocate those funds back in 2012, and graciously, they brought some of the project back last year, but the focus is specifically on transitioning, building supports for individuals who are leaving high school and entering that adult service world. So building supports for employers, and then also building supports in higher ed. So we'll go to the next one. Go to the next one. Quick. So the purpose is to develop and expand a variety of resources that is focused on the transition needs of students with autism and related behavior and communication challenges. The goal is to assist students with autism in transitioning successfully into, like I said, the workforce or accessing higher ed. And so I am back there with that big trifold binder, and I have lots of different resources. Over the past year, we have some print resources, and then we have a web portal. It is autismcollegeandcareer.com. Any of the resources that I brought with me are also available on the web. We have a leadership committee that helped us prioritize the work. They have us come up with these 6 different audiences, secondary, so that would be any junior high school teacher or high school teacher, students and young adults themselves who are on the spectrum, individuals that work in post-secondary. We're going to focus on communities and how can we better support and raise awareness in communities and acceptance. Supports for families, and then also employers. We last year primarily focused on post-secondary employers and then some student young adults. So you'll see the resources that I have back there are specific to those audiences. But you're free to take as many resources as you can. Hop on the internet, download them, share them. If anybody wants to be involved in our project, I've got my card back there. You can pick it up and I will reach out to you. So that is it in a nutshell. Short and sweet, right? I could talk to you for like 6 hours up here about all of this. Go for it. Done.
All right, same thing. I'm going to be short and sweet, so I'm probably going to skip through a couple things, Suzanne. I first want to just tell you a little bit of the background. I've been working with the autism population since 1984. And that was way back before we had Google, before we had the web, and my mom took me to the library to learn about autism. And in 1984, there wasn't really a whole lot about autism to learn, even though it's been around since the 1940s. So I've been in this field a very long time. I've been honored to have a lot of fantastic jobs and work with amazing people and wonderful individuals on the autism spectrum who have changed my life in so many ways. But just so you know, that's a little bit of my background. I'm gonna talk kind of briefly about the fact that Autism Speaks changed its mission statement about a year and a half ago. And this made me really happy. I've been here for about 2.5 years, going on 3 years, and I really like this because it really does capture what we're doing every day. It also took the word cure out of our mission statement, and it also took the word struggle out of our mission statement. I didn't like both of those words very much because it's not always a struggle for someone to have autism. It's not always a struggle to work with someone with autism or to be someone with autism. So that word is no longer there. I like that a lot. I also want people to know Autism Speaks is no longer seeking a cure. When Autism Speaks formed in 2005, there were 3 main research areas, yes, thank you very much, who did have a very heavy emphasis of finding a cure. And they merged and became Autism Speaks. So really for that first 10 years, there was a heavy emphasis on that with our research. That is no longer the case. This is our new impact and our mission statement. I really, really do like it, and I'll talk a little bit more about breaking this down. So some of the main areas that we concentrate on now are, I heard somebody say blue light bulbs and lighting it up blue, and that's fantastic. That raises awareness, and we know that that's important. But we also know that's not enough, and so another big piece of our new mission and our new focus is making sure we're raising understanding and increasing acceptance of people with autism, because it isn't enough to light buildings up blue. It isn't enough to wear blue t-shirts. It isn't enough to just have that awareness. We really need to add in those other pieces to make this really work. I'm not going to talk a lot about our research just because I could go on and on, but I will tell you that we have a new chief science officer who has a son on the autism spectrum who's pretty severely impacted, and he's amazing. He's doing some incredible work with genomic sequencing. The first time I had to reach out to him, and I'll just tell you a little bit about what he's like and why I like him so much and respect the work that he does, is I said, I have to do this presentation with Dr. Frazier up in Milwaukee, and I need his bio and I need his headshot, and who do I ask for that? And they're like, you just email him. And I was like, no, I'm not going to email the chief science officer of Autism Speaks and say, I need your bio and your headshot. They're like, no, they'll answer you. I was like, seriously? So I did, and he wrote back to me 5 minutes later. This is the kind of man this person is. He wrote back to me 5 minutes later. He said, hi, Colleen. It's so great to meet you. Looking forward to working together. Please don't call me Dr. Frazier. You can call me Tom. And also, I'm attaching my bio, but it's a shortened version because I think bios are pretentious. And when I'm doing these research roadshows, which is what we dubbed them, and talking to people about research we're doing, these events aren't about me. They're about our families, they're about people with autism and the people who work with them. And I was like, okay, whoa, you're amazing. And he truly is like that. He's just an incredible person. He does do a lot of presentations. We just recently did one at Northwestern a couple weeks ago. We're doing one down in St. Louis on June 11th, if anybody wants to make the trek down there. I'm doing one up in Minneapolis next week. So if anybody's interested, my cards are back there and you can let me know to hear him speak. He's just amazing. We also have 2 new strategic initiatives that we know are important. One is that focusing on early diagnosis, that early identification and screening, making sure those kids, if they are getting screened, are getting the diagnostic workups that they need. And then if they're getting the diagnostic assessments and people are saying, this child's on the spectrum, to not have them wait to get those really important interventions. The second area is that transition to adulthood, because it's a really nice segue to what you were talking about, is there's just not enough resources. We have a ton of resources around this now, a lot of really big impact going on. I could talk about it more, but I know you guys are all done and ready to go to dinner, as am I, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it, but I do have a ton of resources, and I'll be here all day tomorrow. Also, ensuring that those supports are relevant and available throughout the lifespan and across the spectrum, because autism is a spectrum, we all know that, and it's different with every single person. So this, wow, she's like, okay, Colleen, go, you got 10 more minutes. So this just shows the really nice intersection of our three main areas of focus for our mission delivery. The first is science. I talked a little bit about that. Advocacy is another really big piece of what Autism Speaks does, and so many people, we're kind of quiet about these things. And every time I'm out doing a presentation, and it's a full presentation, people say, gosh, I had no idea Autism Speaks did all these things. And I truly never did either, which is why the outreach team was created, so we can get out there and talk about these things so people understand. And then our family services division, which is probably what's most relevant to you guys. Okay, so please don't be mad that some of the materials that are on my table still read 1 in 68, because this is a new number, and we all know it's only changed within the last few weeks. There's a lot of fantastic information about this study that came out by the CDC a couple weeks ago. Dr. Fraser actually did a Facebook Live chat about it and what these numbers mean, what they look like with relation to kind of closing that gap with females, closing that gap with underserved populations and minorities. So I can't go into that now because I don't have time. But if you're interested, go to autismspeaks.org or go to the Autism Speaks Facebook page and put in Dr. Fraser live Facebook chat, and he's on there. Next. So I talked a little bit about this, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but again, that increasing that awareness is really important, but so is that increasing that understanding and acceptance. One of the things we're really trying to do more is not work in silos. We want to partner with people. We want to collaborate. You heard from Kathy from Mokina Public Library. That's one of 3 huge town halls I did within the last 12 months in the libraries in Illinois, with the focus on transition to adulthood. So we're trying to do all of these events and partner with these big and fantastic organizations, and also some smaller little, you don't know about them, organizations, to offer opportunities for our families. People say all the time, like, oh, it's Autism Awareness Month in April, and that's great because we have all these events going on, and my family doesn't know how to pick and choose what we should go to because there's something going on every single day, every single night, every single weekend. I work them, I know. But that's great, but we also don't just want that to happen in April. World Autism Month is fantastic. Autism Awareness 1 month is great, but it needs to happen all the time. It needs to be around, and we're really working hard to make those possibilities happen. Next. So we know that autism is not just happening in the United States, it's a global issue. There's 70 million people around the world that are actually impacted by autism. We're learning more and more about this through our global autism public health team that is part of Dr. Fraser's science team. Also, really interesting information about that on our website if you want to go read more about that. So I talked a little bit more about this, so we can go to the next slide. So Dr. Fraser, another thing I'll tell you about Dr. Fraser, if you can tell I like him a lot. He came to Autism Speaks about a little over a year ago, and he said, I love what you guys are doing. I think it's great, but I want to know what people with autism want me to study. I want to know what their families want me to study. I want to know what people who support them every day want me to study. What do they want us to study? Because I don't want to come in here with my own agenda. What? Again, I'm like, this guy is amazing. So he devised an assessment. He sent it out to all of those people that I mentioned. He got a huge response, and then he devised a 3-year strategic plan based on that response. Unbelievable. So if you go to autismspeaks.org and you read about, click on the science and research area, you'll see some of the things that he's doing. Absolutely incredible. Since he came on board, he has actually found through this genomic sequencing project that he's doing, and that's one of many things that he's doing, but it's his biggest piece, it's called the Missing Project. He's discovered 18 brand new genes associated with autism. He's also found that there's a lot of comorbidity with a lot of these different mental conditions. He's finding a lot of consistencies with different physical conditions, sleep disorders, GI dysfunctions, and things like that. So it's really interesting to read about what Dr. Fraser and his team is doing. Oh, This is another thing, a lot of people don't know that Autism Speaks funds, but we have 12 collaborative partners around the United States that make up the Autism Treatment Network. They're actually doing that direct service piece. They're doing research. They're working with families of children who are very, very, sometimes medically complex and have a lot of very severe cases of autism. There's about 40,000 kids a year going through these programs. They also train clinicians that are coming up through the ranks, and they also author about half of our toolkits that we have 48 of now. So some of those more medically based toolkits are some of the things I talked about: GI disturbances, feeding challenges, potty training, puberty, some of those things that we know are really tricky that everybody faces, whether you're on the spectrum or not. And these wonderful ATN sites are authoring these great tools. They're all free and downloadable on our website. Okay, next. I kind of already talked about this. One of the things Autism Speaks is really trying to do is lower that age of diagnosis. It used to be about 4.5 to 5.5 years old was common. We're now really getting much, much better at diagnosing much younger. You guys probably might know that. We also are, in 2017, there was over 500,000 people who downloaded the MChat off of the Autism Speaks website, which is great because so many people don't know where to access those kinds of things. That's a screening tool if you're not familiar with it for a very specific age group. It's free and downloadable on the Autism Speaks website. Okay, next. So this is probably one of my favorite things that we do because I know that there's such a huge need. So that transition to adulthood piece that you did a great job of talking about, I'm not gonna really repeat what you said, but reiterate the importance of this, is that we had just in 2017 more than 15,000 families who received support. And then people say, well, how did they get that? They called the Autism Response Team, which I'll talk about in a minute. They downloaded or came to one of our transition town halls and received a transition toolkit, which are absolutely amazing. They went to one of our telelearning programs, which has those, we do those twice a month. One for new diagnosis families, that's one of those areas of strategic initiative. The second is transitioning to adulthood. They're on Wednesday nights. You can sign up for them. We know people can't always come out to trainings and events and things, so people can do them in their living room. We just need you to sign up for them within 24 hours. There's flyers back there for both of those with the 2018 dates listed. The other thing that I couldn't hear some of the questions, but I don't know if somebody was asking about jobs. And jobs is such a huge piece of this puzzle, and it's something we know we absolutely have to help with. So again, in 2015, I believe Autism Speaks partnered with Rangan Consultants, an adult with autism, who said, hey, I want a job. I can't find a job because I can't get through the interview process. I have a degree, I'm smart, I can do the work, I can't get hired. Okay, that's not okay. So what are we gonna do to change this? So we created something called the Spectrum Careers. It's an online job portal. If you have not heard of it, if you don't know about it, go to thespectrumcareers.org. The cool thing about this is if you are a person with autism who is looking for a job, you can go to thespectrumcareers.org, you can fill out information, you can put in what your strengths are, you can put in what your challenges are, you can put in what your interests are, you can upload videos, you can upload different types of resumes and cover letters, and then the people who are the businesses that are on there are specifically looking to hire people on the autism spectrum, which is awesome. I had a lady call our autism response team one day, and I took the call because my team was filling in and kind of helping out with that. And she said the same story. She said, oh, it's just so sad. My son's so depressed. He wants a job so bad. He can't get through the interview process. And I said, have you ever heard of the Spectrum Careers? It's our online job portal. And she goes, no. You guys have that? Mm-hmm. She called me back 2 weeks later and said my son got a job because of this. It's really cool. So again, you can go forward. So that ensuring that access to reliable information, I'm going to talk a little bit about how we help all those people. We have those toolkits. There's lists of them back there. It's a front and back sheet. The back sheet side, I believe, is the more medically based ones that are authored through our ATN sites. The front sheet, I heard somebody ask a question about a sibling. We do have a sibling support toolkit as part of our family support toolkits. We have employment toolkits. We have transition to adulthood toolkits. We have all kinds of toolkits. They are free and they are downloadable. Sometimes there are a lot of pages. Sometimes people don't have access to computers, to the internet, or to print out that many things. So we're trying really hard to find a way that we can partner, and this is how we started talking last year, to get our copies of our toolkits in some of those underserved areas in Illinois, so that people can come and see them and read them and check them out if they need to. So that discussion is hopefully going to continue. We also have a resource guide. So if people are looking for a resource, instead of Googling 5,000 different things, they can go to autismspeaks.org, and on the front-facing webpage, click on a little link that says Find Local Resources Here. You click on that, you put in whatever state you live in, put in that in the drop-down menu, put in your zip code, and within 25 miles of that particular zip code in that state, all of these categories will come up. So you don't have to go searching for everything. Parents don't have to go, they're already really busy. They don't have to go searching for all these things. They're all right there in this database. If you need to be listed, if your library is not listed, and you should be listed, if you're a library that wants to hire with someone with autism, connect with me, because you need to be on the Spectrum Careers job portal. You need to be on our resource guide. We also have provided over 1 million copies of all of our toolkits. The most frequently requested one is our first 100-day toolkit, just so you know. We have 2 versions of that, one for 0 to 4-year-olds and one for 5 to 13-year-olds. So this is the best kept secret at Autism Speaks that we don't want kept a secret. And I will tell you that when I used to go to the Chicago office, because prior to coming here as a full-time staff, I was a very active volunteer. There was always a lady on the phone in this office. I'm like, who is she talking to? Like every time I come here, she's on the phone. And they said, oh, she's our art person. And I was like, what does that mean? She's doing art all day? Is she drawing puzzle pieces? Who is this lady? No, she was the Autism Response Team coordinator there. We have people around the country who are taking these phone calls, who are answering emails, who are helping ladies like that mom who called and said, my son can't find a job, he's super depressed, how can you help me? And they are doing this every single day. They're amazing. We have them around the country. All of them have a degree related to autism. Some of them have masters. One has a PhD. And they are helping people every single day navigate through whatever they might be facing. And it's not just families. It's self-advocates who call. It's professionals who are calling. And we're providing those supports and resources. If you have, actually in 2017, they answered about 70,000 phone calls and emails, which is pretty amazing. There's 9 of them around the country right now. If you need to call someone or you know somebody who needs this resource, this is the number. We also have a specific Spanish-speaking, 3 fluent Spanish-speaking art coordinators around the country, so that's the number for that as well. Sometimes people don't want to call, so there's a dedicated email line as well, which is just familyservices@autismspeaks.org. I'm not going to read these, but this just goes to show you, these are some of the actual quotes of people really across that lifespan and across the spectrum who've called and said, you know, gosh, you guys really helped me. And these are some of the quotes of the different things. This just shows the pie chart of who's calling. So you see that preschool age, school age, transition age, and adult services. And it's interesting that school age is the biggest piece of that pie chart at 46%. Okay. These are some of the covers of some of our toolkits. We are redoing these and updating them because the numbers changed yet again. And just so you can see some of the different ones, that's what they look like. And again, across the spectrum throughout the lifespan is really what those cover. And again, nearly 1 million downloads from our website of all of these different topics. A list of all of them is back on my table. So the mission statement was that big, longer statement. This is our impact statement, and it's Autism Speaks is enhancing lives today and accelerating a spectrum of solutions for tomorrow. That's truly what we're doing every single day. I'm very proud to work here. I think we're doing amazing work. I think the direction that we've taken in this new 10-year strategic plan under this new executive leadership is unbelievable. I'm just really proud to be a part of what we're doing. I'm also really proud to continue the work that we have been doing with some of the Illinois libraries. I've done community meetings, I've done transition and other town halls, and just really am enjoying that collaboration and partnership. So I want to continue that. I will be here all day tomorrow. If anybody wants to come ask me questions, I know you don't probably want to ask me questions right now because everybody wants to leave, and I understand. But it's been a really long day, but it's also been really interesting. I loved listening to everyone. I love the self-advocates. I love that there's so many self-advocates here and that have a voice because they are really who we all need to be listening to. I love the Targeting Autism initiative. I think it's fantastic and we're really happy to be a part of it. So thank you so much for your attention. Have a lovely evening and I will see you tomorrow.